So we were looking good again this weekend, but as I say to you guys, never trust a weekend pump. And here we are now, back down at 62,500. And the reason for this sideways move and this bloodbath on alts actually has nothing to do with crypto. Actually, the reason for this sideways move is this chart over here. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about this chart, and we're going to talk about the implications of this chart, because let me tell you that if we don't resolve what's going wrong with that chart, then this pain could get a lot worse and could last a whole lot longer. And if you think that this is bad on the altcoins, just wait and see what happens if this chart carries on going down. So quite a big show today, because today we're going to decide whether this is going to continue to bleed and if we can expect the next move to be, well, like it says over there, much lower, or whether there's some kind of chance for recovery and what needs to happen for that recovery to actually happen. So lots to do today. It's my second last day at the office before I go to Miami. So let's go, guys. True story, it is my second last day here until I go to Miami. So I remember, guys, I am going to Miami for two reasons. There's the official reason and there is the unofficial reason why I'm going to Miami. So the official reason why I'm going to Miami this week is because I am moderating the biggest crypto debate ever in the world. So basically this is like the biggest crypto debate ever that's ever taken place between Bitcoin bulls and Bitcoin bears. So on the bull side, you got Scaramucci and you got 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝗄𝗧. On the bear side, you got 𝗔𝗣𝗣𝗟𝗏 and Peter Schiff. And let me tell you, I'm actually kind of shitting myself to try and moderate a debate between such strong personalities. Anyway, that's happening on Friday, the 3rd of May. Remember, if you want to join us for dinner after the debate, I think there's like 15 tickets or 10 tickets up for sale. They're quite expensive. They're not for like this. Okay, only 5 tickets left, as you can see. You can buy them over here. They're very expensive because they're made to be for heavy hitters who really want to have dinner with people like Nuriel. They're $10,000. Peter Schiff, etc., etc. So if you want to join us for that, dinner, then go and click that link below, and you can potentially join us for the dinner. Now, the unofficial reason why I'm going to Miami, you know what the unofficial reason is that I'm going to Miami, right? Because it's a Formula One, and I'm a crazy Formula One fan. So I just figured, listen, if I moderate this debate, imagine if I moderate this debate, then I can go to the Formula One, and that's like absolutely amazing. So listen. So listen, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, let's subscribe to the channel. If you are subscribed, just smash the like button. Let's obliterate the like buttons. Let me know if you're going to be watching the debate. The debate will be broadcast on 𝗧𝗏𝗪's page and here on the Crypto Banter page. Someone says GUMMY to the moon. I told you there's stuff going on GUMMY. I'm going to talk about that later. But a quick little hint of what's going on at GUMMY. I did say that GUMMY bought the domain memestaking.com. Now, what could that mean? What could that mean that they bought the debate memestaking.com? Any idea what that could mean, memestaking.com? Well, you're going to hear about it later in the show. You're all going to hear about it later in the show. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. Let's get into the stuff here. Remember to destroy the like. I only see 500 likes. Let's talk about why we have this crazy price action on Bitcoin. It's getting a little bit frustrating. I won't lie to you. It is moving sideways. Every time we get a pump, we get destroyed or we get obliterated again. Every time we get obliterated on Bitcoin, the altcoins look something like this. And it's like a terrible picture on alts, because when you take a lot of these red bubbles and you start combining them, what you start realizing is on the monthly time frame, these moves have actually started to be quite brutal on altcoins. Just have a look here. Rune is down 42% in the last month. Sui is down 40% in the last month. Solana is down 31% in the last month. Filecoin is down 40% in the last month. Render is down 30% in the last month. So even though if you look at Bitcoin, you say, okay, well, look, Bitcoin hasn't come down a lot. Bitcoin from the top is down 15%. When you look at the altcoins are absolutely getting obliterated, and it happens every single time. Bitcoin pumps up a little bit. In fact, not us. A lot of other people, basically, they get into the altcoins. They think, okay, this time the altcoins are going to run, and then bang, they get dumped on, and every time they get dumped on, the altcoins go much lower. The truth is that this is getting very painful. And what you're living through right now is you're living through probably the first real correction in this bull market. Because normal corrections or the corrections that we've had in this bull market up until now have been very, 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 very slow. They've been very painful, but for short periods of time. So we go down on altcoins 30%, bang, 2 weeks later, we recover again, and we're flying to the moon. When you look at this correction or this sideways action, so this sideways action has been going on from the 28th of February. So that is like 60 days of complete sideways action. And at the same time, the altcoins have absolutely been capitulating. Now, look, the truth is, there should be no surprise here, right? There should be absolutely no surprise here. And the reason why there should be no surprise is if you look at other halving years, every halving year, after the halving, we get a lot of sideways. In 2020, we got 161 days of halving. 2016, we got 161 days. Also 161 days. Okay, what a coincidence. Lots of coincidences here. Also, you got to take into account that not only is this normal for halving years, but actually, when we look at Bitcoin and we look at the performance of Bitcoin, you can see that we've had, if you look at the monthly, if you just zoom out and say, okay, monthly, how's Bitcoin done on the monthly? 1 green candle, 2 green candles, 3 green candles, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the first month in 8 months that Bitcoin has actually had a downward candle. You cannot have a chart that just goes up and up and up and up and up. Even in the peak of the bull market, which is this part over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th one, we had a red candle. So you can't have a market that just carries on. So number one, put things into perspective. You had 7 green months. It's okay to have 1 or 2 red months to actually reset the bull market, which is what I'm going to show you is actually happening right now. Number one. Number two, what most people actually tend to forget, which I wanted to remind people, and people, when I made this tweet, what happened? People started texting me on my phone. Why do you say that? Why are you so negative? Guys, you just have short memories. I don't have a short memory. I remember that every single time between May and September, I always say to myself, why the hell didn't I sell in May and go away? Because generally, May is generally between May and September, the prices go down. And it's not sideways and down. And it's not only on the halving years like 2020 and 2016. Here, let me show you something. This is 2019. 2019, 50 days of sideways movement since May before we actually did a bit of a ramp up. 2020, 88 days of sideways movement since May, right? And it's, the thing with this sideways, it's Bitcoin sideways, but it's Bitcoin sideways and alts down. Let's quickly look at 2020 May. Let me show you a chart here quickly. This will give you, so let me show you a chart. Let's go to total 3. Let's go to May 2020. So May 2020 on total 3. So let's go all the way back to May. Let's go into the weekly. Let's see if we can get on the daily. It'll be nicer if we can see it on the daily. So 2020, May. Okay. May 2020, May 2020. Here we go. Okay. What you can see is that, here we go. It's sideways. Sideways. And the same thing with 2020. Okay. So 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021 over here. 97 bars of sideways movements. 97 bars is 3.5 months from May. It's May, June, July, August. Then 2022, okay, we won't talk about 2022 because that was the year of the capitulation of Celsius, of FTX, or whatever else. Then 2023, also 2023, sideways movement. This one was 59. This sideways movement was from May, 177 days. From the 1st of May until November, we moved sideways and we actually moved down. So what I'm trying to show you is that this sideways movement is absolutely normal, not only for halving years, but pretty much for every year. And that's why always the YouTubers always make videos that say, sell in May and go away is garbage, blah, 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 blah. Guys, it's true. If you sell in May, you go away, you come back in August, typically you wouldn't have missed anything in the crypto market. That is what sell in May actually happens. And as I've shown you over here, it's not only halving years. It's 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. Every single year, we go sideways from May until August. And it could happen that the same thing happens this year. So if you're going to be around between May and August, you really have 2 options. One is you can just go on vacation, or you can just go watch the F1 in Miami and do things that you actually enjoy doing while the market is actually moving sideways. Or you can sell in May and, I don't know, come back another day. So that's the story. That's the story. This is absolutely, absolutely normal. And again, why do I say absolutely normal? One is, after 7 green months, you could have a red month or two. Not the worst issue in the world. Number 2, it's normal from a May to August, September point of view. Every single year we go sideways. Bitcoin chops sideways, and as Bitcoin chops sideways, we alt dump. But then you got to ask yourself what happens around September, October, and November, and that is what 𝗏𝗏𝗏 actually calls the banana. That is the banana over here. Okay, now someone said, look, if that maybe this banana is going to be that banana over here, but no, it's we chop sideways, we get this sideways movement, and then we go up and we actually get the banana. So we're going to talk about the banana in a couple of seconds. It's not that banana. We will talk about the real banana in a couple of seconds. All right, so let's get on to what actually happened this morning. Why did we get such a big? It was quite a big dump. Yesterday, 64,000. I mean, even though he's one of us, actually, I have to take the piss out of someone here, right? So 𝗱𝗏𝗏, one of our hosts, I love the guy. He's making really cool content and stuff like that. So yesterday he says either Bitcoin breaks. Where is it? Where is his tweet? He made a tweet yesterday. He says, here we go. If we don't rip next week, I'm going to eat humble pie. That's what the market does to you. That's what the market does to you. It tries to get you to believe it's going to rip next week. I say, I don't. If we don't rip next week, I'm going to eat humble pie live. So I said to him this morning, 𝗱𝗏𝗏, let's take a bet that the market doesn't go to 68,000 like you said. And then he said, okay, cool, let's take the bet. He was like, yeah. I said, okay, but the bet is you have to shave one eyebrow, just one. And you have to walk around with one eyebrow shave. It takes 8 weeks to grow back. He did the research. And then he chickened out of the bet. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because every time the market pumps, you think to yourself, okay, this time the pump is real. Every time you think that, what I want you to think is, you have time. The market's not about to run away. You have time. Because we're just going to chop sideways. We're just chopping sideways. That's why I said the last time that it just chopped sideways till September. Last time it chopped sideways until September. That's unfortunately the part of the market which we are in. And unfortunately also, we have slightly bigger problems in the market at the moment that need to resolve themselves and will resolve themselves miraculously in time for the US elections, which would give us 2024 that looks exactly like 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020. Nothing happens until they have to get people all excited for the elections, and then they get people all excited for the elections by making them feel rich. That's basically what happens in election years. Now, you know that because you're very, very, very smart, right? So let's talk about what happened this weekend. I always say, never, ever, ever trust an erection if you're drunk. And also never, ever, ever trust a weekend pump. Because when you get a low liquidity weekend pump, did I say that erection thing or was I just thinking it? I think I actually said it. Okay, but look, if you're drunk, don't trust an erection. You never know, okay? You never, ever, ever know. Also, never, ever, ever trust a low liquidity weekend pump. Because you as good as damage, you know that if on Friday we go into the weekend at 63,000 and we pump to 65,000 on the weekend, we will reverse back below that on the Monday. Now, what happened today? Why did we reverse back today? I want to actually spend some time talking about this. It's actually quite serious what actually happened, right? So what happened was we were doing okay until the Asian market opened. And the reason we were doing okay until the Asian market, or the reason why Bitcoin dumped, or all the markets dumped when the Asian market opened, was actually because of this chart over here, which is the chart that I showed you earlier. Now, let me make it a little bit different for you. Let's go JPY-USD. Okay. And it looks better when you look at it like this. So what is this chart over here? And why is this chart causing big commotion in world markets, specifically in Bitcoin and other liquid asset markets, okay? So what is this chart? This chart is the Japanese yen against the US dollar. What you can see about this chart is that if you take a year ago, or let's say the beginning of January 2023, and you go to today, the Japanese yen has depreciated 20% against the US dollar. So now the big question is, why am I talking about this on a Bitcoin show? And why the hell should you care? And why are markets actually panicking about this? So we have to break down the thesis so that you actually understand what's going on when it comes to the macro. So let's start off over here. One thing that you have is you have what people are saying is the implosion, a currency implosion of the world's third biggest economy. So yes, it's true. Japan is the world's biggest economy. If you don't trust me, just ask Google. So you go biggest economies in the world. Okay, I just said in the world. And you can see that the biggest economy in the world is United States, then China, and then the third biggest economy in the world is actually Japan. Okay, so Japan is the third biggest economy in the world. Now, why is this actually important? So you've got the third biggest economy in the world. If you look at the third biggest economy in the world, Japan, what you can see is that since about 1998, Japan has had zero interest rates. Okay, like you can see that the interest rate in Japan has pretty much been zero since 1998. Okay, so imagine you've got the third biggest economy in the world with no interest, zero interest rates. Okay, unlike the US, which goes up and down. Sometimes it's 5%, then it goes back to 0%. This one, Japan, third biggest economy in the world, no interest rate. At the same time, Japan also hasn't had much inflation. So if you look at it, let's see, I don't know how far this chart goes. Okay, this chart goes all the way back to 2020, which is 25 years ago. I think that's good enough. But you can see that Japan's inflation rate is pretty much like close to zero all the time, right? Until like now when we're about 2 or 3%. Now, what do we know about a country where its currency is devaluing like this? Generally, when a country's currency devalues, it makes things more expensive in the country's currency, and therefore it causes inflation. So if the dollar gets weaker, and so basically if a currency gets weaker, imported goods and other goods become more expensive in that currency. And so for consumers to buy the same goods makes them more expensive, and that generally causes inflation. So remember, Japan has been a country with no interest rates and pretty much no inflation for as long as we can remember. But now the problem is, as its currency continues to devalue, there is a concern that the Japanese inflation is going to start to creep up. And Japanese people won't know what to do when they actually get inflation, right? Because they've never had inflation before. So here's the issue. Not only does Japan have the third biggest economy in the world and zero interest rates and zero inflation, but Japan also has one of the highest debt to GDP in the world. In other words, Japan, if you take its total debt as a country and you take its GDP, Japan has the highest debt to GDP ratio in the world. Now, obviously, one of the reasons why they have the highest debt in the world is because they haven't had interest rates for so long. And when interest rates are zero, well, what do? You take debt, because debt is pretty much free, right? It's like basic maths. Like if I were to say to you, listen, you can buy a house, the interest rate is zero. You're going to buy the biggest house that you possibly get because the interest rate's zero, right? And so you'll put yourself in a lot of debt. That's exactly what Japan did as a country. Because they've had, 30 years of no interest at all, like zero interest rates, they went and took out a lot of debt. And so the result is that they right now have a lot of debt. In fact, their debt is 264 times the size, 264% the size of their GDP. And their currency is starting to weaken, and they're starting to get inflation. Okay, now what's the issue with this? The issue is that somehow they've got to strengthen this currency. Okay, how do you strengthen a currency? Well, one way to strengthen a currency is to increase interest rates. So imagine that Japan says, okay, well, because our currency is devaluing so much, we're going to increase interest rates. By increasing interest rates, more people will want to hold Japanese yen because they can invest them and get a higher yield on the Japanese yen, and therefore the currency will strengthen. Problem is, if you increase interest rates when you've got so much debt, okay, so if you increase interest rates when you have so much debt, how the hell will you and your country be able to pay the debt when the interest rate increases? It's all fun and games when the interest rate is at 0%. But if somebody increases the interest rates and Japan then has to start servicing these interest rates payments, chances are they won't be able to pay the interest rates. So Japan's really caught between a rock and a hard place. Now, to make things even worse, in Japan, there's this thing called the cash and carry trade. Now, what is the cash and carry trade? So let me focus here and I'll explain to you what the cash and carry trade is. The cash and carry trade is when you look at Japan and you say, hold on a second, Japan's got 0 interest rates, right? Let me do this. Let me borrow money in Japan, and then let me go to take that money, and let me invest that money in US Treasury bills to earn 5%, because that's what you're earning on US Treasury bills, borrow at 0, and just keep investing in the US at 5%. And that's all fun and games until they start raising the interest rates in Japan. And then you say, hold on a second, this trade's not actually that much fun. And then you got to start selling T-bills. Okay, so that's what's happening right now in Japan. If they raise, right now, Japan, as you can see, is the biggest holder as a country, of US T-bills. Why are they the biggest holders as a country of US T-bills? Because you can borrow in Japan for free, basically, and you can invest in the US at 5%. Everyone's doing it. In fact, so much so that Japan is the biggest holder of US T-bills. And so now, if Japan is forced to increase their interest rate to defend their currency, which is going to pretty much 0, and the reason they would do this is because they want to make sure that they don't get inflation, then the problem is people may start selling off US treasuries. And if they start selling off US treasuries, all of a sudden, what happens is you actually land up making the 𝗥𝗂𝗓 stronger. And so if you look at the 𝗥𝗂𝗓 is the dollar index. And what you can see here is that you can see that the 𝗥𝗂𝗓, the makeup of the 𝗥𝗂𝗓, I think if you, so what is the 𝗥𝗂𝗓? The 𝗥𝗂𝗓 is the value of the dollar against a basket of currencies. But in that basket of currencies is 13.6% the Japanese yen. So Japan's really caught between a rock and a hard place. Imagine this. And I think that there's a tweet here that actually summarizes it perfectly. He says, look, Japan, if they raise rates, they can't service their debt, which means they would default. That's a bad scenario, a country default. If they sell US treasuries to prop up the yen, then people are going to buy those high-yielding treasuries that will in turn prop up the US dollars, which then puts it back into square one, which means that they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Someone said, 𝗙𝗏𝗂𝗧 says, the Bank of Japan is trapped in one chart. Japan is experiencing increasing inflation alongside continuous devaluation of the yen, exhibiting an almost perfectly negative correlation. This reflects a dilemma of the economy burdened by excessive debt, necessitating continuous accommodative monetary policy in the face of structural inflationary pressures. While this may be more pronounced in Japan, the trend is reflective of a global fiat debasement systems. So Japan may actually be the canary in the coal mine, because the same thing's happening in the United States, and the same thing's happening with all of these environments. And what they've been doing is they've been printing and printing and printing more money. The problem is that now the printing of more money is starting to cause the currency to devalue and inflation to actually start going up. And so, look, right now, where is Japan? The Japan right now are, I think, in a little bit of denial. So what they're saying is the currency continued its downward spiral, which began on Friday after the Bank of Japan expressed no interest in trying to stop the decline, saying currency rates are not a part of our monetary policy or our direct control. Okay, so he's saying, look, if this is like their version of the Fed, and their version of the Fed is saying, look, we don't really care about currency devaluation because that's not what we worry about, because we worry about inflation and unemployment. Problem is, if your currency keeps devaluing, you're going to get more inflation. I mean, so yes, he's saying, look, we don't really care about the currency devaluing, but if the currency carries on devaluing, the buying power of your yen becomes less, which means things are going to land up costing more in yen, and that is what causes inflation. And so what we can expect to see is we can expect to see the inflation rate in Japan really start increasing. Now, what happens if the inflation rate in Japan really starts increasing? The only way that I know that you can get inflation down is to raise interest rates or take money out of the economy. Now, this is where the problem comes in, and I'll show you why. We know that Bitcoin is very much a function of global liquidity, right? Like we know the more global liquidity there is, the higher Bitcoin goes. You cannot deny it. Here's the chart. The bottom of the chart here is global liquidity, and the top is the price of Bitcoin. We've spoken about this chart a lot, and we've showed you guys this thing over here, and we said, look, in an environment where global liquidity is increasing, then risk assets actually go up, example Bitcoin, in an environment where global liquidity is decreasing, risk assets will actually go down. So let me show you maybe a monthly. Let's see if we can actually get a weekly on this chart. Okay, so you can see that since 2020, which is when Bitcoin actually started running, global liquidity really increased. And then in 2021, when the contraction actually started and markets started to collapse, was because global liquidity started to collapse, right? And all the little spikes that we've had this year are actually as a result of slight increases in liquidity. But in general, global liquidity increases the price of Bitcoin. And when they increase liquidity, price of Bitcoin goes up. When they decrease liquidity, price of Bitcoin goes down. If Japan is forced to increase interest rates, which is what we're worried about here, then what we're actually going to get is we're going to get risk assets revalued, right? And if we get risk assets revalued, that actually becomes a problem. So that's where we're at. That is why it impacts the Bitcoin market. We have to watch this chart of the Japanese yen. What you'll notice is here, hold on, where do we put our Japanese yen chart? I think it's this one here. What you notice is that there was one green candle today, and that is because what they keep doing is they keep intervening. Now, how do they intervene? By buying and selling T-bills into the market. They take yen in and out of circulation. And that's what they did here. There was a slight central bank intervention, as there was a couple of months ago, but actually these interventions do nothing in the long term. In the long term, probably the only way to fix this is to increase interest rates. If they increase interest rates, they're going to decrease liquidity. Now you wonder, okay, how important is Japan in global liquidity? They are this dark orange color over here. That's Japan, that's China. So you can see Japan, the entire bull market was actually spurred on by Japan printing like mofos, okay, alongside the US and others. When Japan started to decrease, the whole market started to come down. That was the big correction. And when Japan started to pump, look when Japan started to pump. You see here? Look, you see it was October 2022. Now let's go to Bitcoin on the chart of October 22. Let's see when the market actually started to pump. So let's go here. Oh, look here. When did the market start pumping? November 22. Oh, hold on. Maybe Japan is a very important part of money printing. Here we go. They started increasing their balance sheet on the 24th of October, and the Bitcoin rally actually started just after that in November. You think that's a coincidence? I don't really think it's a coincidence. I think it's that what we're seeing here is how important Japanese liquidity is. And that's why the market is actually starting to worry. And that's why Bitcoin started to come down. And as you can see right now, continues to come down. Cool. So now you understand what's going on in Japan. Keep your eyes on the Japanese yen, and you need to keep your eyes on the Japanese yen, and you need to keep your eyes on global liquidity. The biggest savior to global liquidity is if you click here on this chart over here. Let's just click on settings. You can see that what you want is the US. The US is the one that you want, right? You want the US to actually start pumping out liquidity on this chart. And in that sense, we've actually got quite a big week this week, because this week we actually have an FOMC meeting. So on Wednesday, there is the FOMC meeting where Jerome Powell is going to, Jerome Powell and the Fed people, Fed ambassadors, Fed bankers, whatever the hell they call themselves, are going to decide whether they should keep interest rates the same, whether they should raise rates, or whether they should decrease rates. Now, I'll give 2 GUMMY to anyone who gets the answer right. What is Jerome Powell going to do this week? Is he 1, going to increase rates? B, going to keep rates the same? 3, going to reduce rates? Well, listen, think about it like this. Last time he came out and he said, we cannot begin reducing rates until we see signs that inflation is going to subside. Since then, we've had inflation readings. How were the inflation readings? Not so good. So the inflation readings actually went up and shocked the market on the up, right? So basically, I don't see how Jerome Powell comes out this week with anything other than being completely hawkish, right? He's going to come out and he's going to say, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. blah, 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 blah. We wait for data to see about the inflation. Right now, inflation seems to be stickier than normal. We can't do anything. We can't reduce rates because inflation seems to be stickier than normal. We understand your pain and your suffering and everything else, but unfortunately, we can't reduce rates. That's what he's going to say. And so the market's going to read that as quite hawkish. They're going to think, well, I mean, is there any chance that Jerome Powell stands there and he says, you know what, guys, even though inflation is going up and seems to be sticky, we are thinking of reducing rates. In the next meeting, we will obviously not, guys. Come on, wake up. It's not going to happen, okay? So expect that on Wednesday, Jerome Powell actually lands up being hawkish or bearish. And he says, hold on, guys. We want keep the rate the same. Exactly, keep the rate the same. Jerome Powell is going to say something along the lines of, we have to wait for inflation to show, the data to show us that inflation is coming down. Right now, inflation is not coming down. Therefore, rates are going to be higher for longer. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. He's going to drag it out into 3 or 4 hours. I just summarized it for you so you don't have to watch it on Wednesday. Also, because this Wednesday I'll be in Miami, so I probably won't be able to watch it with you guys. Remember, what they're talking about now is rates higher for longer. They are forecasting 1 interest rate cut this year. If interest rates cut, then we could get more liquidity in the market, right? If interest rates cut, we could get more liquidity in the market. That's how it works. That's how this chart works. But for now, you've got the Bank of Japan going to be tightening, and the only thing that could save us is if the US actually starts loosening. But the US won't loosen because right now, the inflation numbers are actually going up. So that aligns absolutely perfectly with our thesis. Our thesis is we're going to chop sideways. Like every other year. We're going to chop sideways, and chop sideways, and chop sideways. And it could last for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. We're going to chop sideways. Towards the end of the year, there is this thing called an erection. Or at least that's what, this is I don't know if you guys watch this. This, by the way, is the 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂 channel. We're turning 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂 into a real media station. We've discussed that with you guys before. We think that 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂 can be a meme media station. And so we've backed this team, or working with the team, to build this into a media station. Now, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel below, or you can just follow them on Twitter, and you can get the information. But just listen to what happens every 4 years.
Holy shit, folks. Just when you think you've seen it all, President Biden raises the bar. After a string of recent public speaking gaffes, I think we can all agree that he makes George W. Bush sound like a fucking genius. And last night, whilst campaigning in Montana, Sleepy Joe outdid himself. Let's take a look.
And that is why I pledge to continue raising capital gains to ensure the middle class stays middle class. But first, I need your help. Every 4 years, we have this little thing called an erection. Now, erections aren't easy, folks. They should be long and hard. That's democracy. But they really take it out of you. Just ask Joe. So for anyone who says I'm too old or that I don't have the stamina to deliver, let me just say this, determined look. I am going to give this next erection everything I've got. And when I'm out on the campaign trail, tired and exhausted, you know what inspires me to achieve a huge erection result? The children. I just think of the beautiful children of this great country. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Wave, exit left.
So listen, if you enjoyed that, by the way, just there is a link below to subscribe to the 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂 channel. Let's just see, where is the 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂𝗂 channel? There must be a link below. Here we go. Just subscribe here to 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂. So click on that link, subscribe to that channel. Don't do it now because then you have to drop off this show. Also, if you want to trade the 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂 token, you can obviously go to Dex Tools, trade the 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗂𝗂 token. We're going to be using the proceeds of the sponsorships on this channel to actually buy and burn tokens on the open market. I think it's an experiment which actually hasn't been done before. All right, so our thesis. We chop sideways. Then from May, for probably 3 or 4 months, then this thing called an erection happens, and it only happens once every 4 years for Joe Biden. And in the erection, whatever you want to call it, in that erection, we have to do something. So what do? Well, people start believing that Trump is going to come into power. And when Trump comes into power, he said basically they're going to reduce interest rate. reduce interest rates, and basically kickstart the whole economy. Now, when that happens, global liquidity goes up. When global liquidity goes up, risk asset prices goes up, Bitcoin goes up, and then we go into altcoins. That is the thesis. That's pretty much a thesis. Now, will it happen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Who knows? But that's the thesis. The thesis is we chop sideways until they start fighting it out in the election playground. The election playground is all about making people feel rich, making people feel happy. The way to do that is to make markets actually fly, and that's essentially where we land up. So Raoul Pal actually says this. He calls this the reset period. He calls this the pause that refreshes. Okay, now the pause that refreshes, he says. And he shows it on Bitcoin. He shows it on ETH. You'll notice that on Bitcoin, it's like almost very sideways. On ETH, it's more down. On Solana, it's even more down. He said, once the market is fully refreshed is usually when the banana zone starts picking up full mania towards the end of the year. And that's actually when altcoins really start running. He says, that's the trademark of crypto summer and fall. Think of this pause as the last days of spring. Crypto summer is usually the start of alt season, which goes full bubble-tastic in fall. This is when ETH bases and begins to outperform Bitcoin. This is when Sol accelerates its outperformance to Bitcoin and ETH. He says the banana zone usually begins to anoint a new big L1 or L2, which explodes even versus Sol. Usually 3 or 4 make a big run at the end of it. Only one big new entrant actually lasts. He says the key to trade is to analyze what is actually gaining traction and true network effects. This is when the narrative isn't enough. It must be used at scale. But crypto summer and fall will be confusing because everything will have a narrative and everyone will get caught up in euphoria. This is when memes really get silly in price. Unproven narratives like AI and RWN get dub valuations. We also see another 2 nasty corrections due to excessive leverage. The banana zone cometh. Be patient. And please don't fuck this up. It is going to be very easy to lose your mind. Don't fuck this up. And good luck. See, Raoul Pal gets it. Because this sideways chop is the capitulation. What will shake out most traders and give us the reset before we get into the complete banana stage. Before we get into this, not that. That's not that banana. Into this stage over here is this sideways choppy movement. Your job is to survive. Don't fuck this up. When he says don't fuck this up, survive. Survive this by not doing stupid things, not trying to chase every pump because you will get wrecked, or you will walk around like 𝗱𝗱 with one eyebrow until 7 weeks when the eyebrow actually grows back. So I'm a big fan of this. I say wishful thinking. Bitcoin 10 to 15% lower from here. Alts 30% lower from here. Why? Because that will probably be the last chance that we've got to actually buy before we actually go into this banana zone over here. So I wish this plays out. I mean, 10 to 15% lower on Bitcoin, 55,000, call it there. Alts capitulate another 30% from here. That's the last buying season. We buy, and then we go, and then it feels like it's the end of crypto. It feels like it's never going to recover. You're going to hate life. You're going to hate yourself. But if you make that is when we go all in. So as Cryptomanran says, I've been buying the dip for the last 4 weeks. I'm either retiring or going broke at the end of this. I don't encourage you guys to get that deep in, but I am showing you basically what people are actually feeling. All right, you guys are all hacking me for GUMMY news. I do want to talk about some other things, but you guys are all hacking me for GUMMY news. So let's quickly get into the GUMMY news. So first of all, as you saw today, I promised you guys a big exchange listing. We did get the big exchange listing. We got Bybit. We are the first token in their meme coin zone. GUMMY was the first one. As I told you, GUMMY staking is going live very, very, very soon on a website called memestaking.com. We bought the domain, GUMMY bought the domain memestaking.com. And we're going to use that to harness the power of the community. So the reason why we did this is as follows. Every technology project in the blockchain succeeds if it has 4 things. 1, it needs to have casino. 2, it needs to have community. 3, it needs to have technology. 3 things, right? The thing is, most projects start off with technology and then they try and build community and casino. Meme coins do it the other way around, right? They start off with like the strongest community and with a casino, and then they try and they then pivot into technology. So if you think about like the biggest memes of the last cycle, Doge, Floki, Shiba, they all start off as memes and they pivoted into technology. We think we have an amazing idea around GUMMY. we have the most aggressive community in the world. We know this because we saw how you guys farmed for the GUMMY airdrop and how you guys are still farming for the GUMMY airdrop. We want to allow other meme coins and other projects to tap into the community. Now, how will they tap into the community? They will pay. And how will they pay? By giving GUMMY holders free airdrops. So if you want to tap into the GUMMY community, people that stake GUMMY on memestaking.com, okay, when they stake GUMMY on memestaking.com, they will get allocations and airdrops of other meme coins and other projects because other projects want them on board because they are the most engaged communities in the world. It's a big vision, and it's something that's going to be launched on memestaking.com. Right now, we did get you guys a Bybit listing, as you know, today. But if you want to trade GUMMY, GUMMY is available on the spot markets. Today, so far, it's only spot. So you go to here, and you go look for GUMMY. Okay, let's see. Here we go, GUMMY. And you can see, so GUMMY, GUMMY. There we go. You can see GUMMY is listed on Bybit, as we promised you, a big exchange listing. There's another big exchange listing coming either end of this week or next week. We do have two of the best market makers in the world working on GUMMY. We have DWF working on GUMMY, and we have Gotbit working on GUMMY. So we do have amazing market making projects working with us. If you're speaking of market makers, one of our sponsors actually is doing something very, very, very interesting. It's called Volument. What Volument does is it actually does automated AI, automated market making services. So go and check them out, volument.io. They've basically done AI automated market making service. So go and check it out. It's actually quite an interesting concept. They are one of our sponsors, but I just thought since we're talking about market makers, probably a good time to actually be talking about them. Yes, okay, now lastly, let's talk about how you can still get GUMMY because there's still lots of airdrops. So Bybit, if you open up an account on Bybit, and you deposit $100. You got to deposit $100 into your account because people are just opening bot accounts. So, Bybit, Blowfin, you can farm GUMMY here. Or the other way to actually get in is to join Kyle's free, listen to this.
Years ago,
Join Kyle's free whale school. So, just watch this.
I didn't have a penny in the bank. Now I'm comfortable, I can retire. 15 years ago, I lost my house, my family, my wife, my daughter. I lost everything. Probably drunk too much, probably did smoke too much weed, everything that you shouldn't do when you're depressed. And I didn't see a way forward. Unfortunately, my mother passed away, a couple of years ago. She was very ill. She made it to 89, so it was expected. But she left me, obviously, a house to sell. And rather than spend it, I invested it in stocks, but I didn't really know what to do. And I found Crypto Banter. I've been following you for the last 2 years, and I'm learning all about Bitcoin, and I have invested over half of my savings in. I got in at some good entry points thanks to you, Carl, and now I actually have a future. I've got a lovely house that's paid for. I don't have a mortgage. I've got money in the bank. I can invest. And so I just wanted to share it with the group that, if you're feeling low and you're on your own, to me, I promise you.
So that's Kyle's school. Now, not only is Kyle a fantastic teacher and an amazing trader, but just look how cool this is. You're basically getting to school with like thousands of people around the world. You build a network for life. If you want to join Kyle's school, you get a free GUMMY airdrop and you get a free course. So there's very, 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 very limited time to get into Kyle's school. I've got to find where is the link to get into Kyle's school. Hold on a second. Let's quickly just see if we can get you guys a link. Build a network for life. Okay, so we will put, if there isn't a link, we will put a link to Kyle's school. Hold on a second. Is there a link to Kyle's school? Okay, sign up for Whale School. See where it says sign up for Whale School over here? You click that link. When you click that link, you get to this page over here. You'll notice you got 1.5 days to actually sign up. This is like your last chance to sign up. You sign up, not only do you get a GUMMY airdrop, but you actually get this school for free. So just listen, go and do it. Go and do this. Go and do this. This is probably like one of the best chances you'll get to actually get a GUMMY airdrop, to learn amazing stuff about how to trade from one of the legends and to build a crypto network for life. Trust me, guys, it's the easiest thing in the world. Just go here, sign up for Whale School, click over here, bang, and that will get you in. All right. Yes, so I will see you guys again tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be my last show in a couple of days because then I'm going to Miami to host that debate that I was telling you guys about. Remember, if you do want to have dinner with us and you are a whale and you want to go, there's a link below. You can join us at that dinner. I mean, none of that money comes to me, just so we're clear. This is, so just click on that. You'll have dinner with me. 𝗟𝗏𝗪𝗐 is not going to be there. Nurel Rubini, Peter Schiff, Eric Fuhis, and the Zero Hedge guys. Cool. I will see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.